Hi, I'm Mindie Burgoyne, and this is Fridays in the Graveyard. I love a graveyard, don't you? Hi, I'm standing today in Riverton Methodist Church graveyard in Sharptown, Maryland. I'm standing just in front of this grave here, the Trimper grave. That's Granville and Joanne Trimper. And they are who I'm going to talk about today because this is a beautiful love story. Now, before I tell you about Granville and Joanne, just a little bit about the Trimper family. The Trimper family, if you've ever been to Ocean City, you've probably seen the Trimper Amusement rides there at the end of the boardwalk. Same family. Daniel Trimper was a German immigrant who married the daughter of a German immigrant, and they had a restaurant in Baltimore. Daniel decided that he was going to invest in Ocean City. Now, this is the turn of the 20th century, around that time, because people were making money down there. There was an amusement park that was available for purchase at the end of the boardwalk, and he said, you know, we're going to buy this. We're going to develop it, make it something. And he picked up his kids and his wife, and he moved to Ocean City. And boy, did he develop that. Developed it so well that Trimpers is now in the 5th generation is operating it. And they are the oldest family-owned amusement park in America. So they're very successful. But in 1912, Daniel did something really, really important. He bought a carousel. This carousel was German-made. It was made in New York, a German company. And it was a menagerie carousel. So a menagerie carousel isn't just horses. It's all kinds of animals. So this carousel not only has many horses, but it has an ostrich, a dragon, a lion, a ram, a pig, a dog, a cat. It has all kinds of different animals, each one uniquely crafted by a German artist. It's priceless. In fact, every one of the animals is probably priceless. If you ever get a chance to get to Ocean City, it's worth just looking at that carousel, just because it's such a work of art. So anyway, that's the carousel. Back to Granville and Joanne. Granville was the 3rd generation. Now, there was a time that he had to go to Sharptown. See, Sharptown is about an hour's drive from Ocean City, but it's very famous for something. It's famous for its Fireman's Carnival. And Joanne, as a matter of fact, her family was very rooted here in Sharptown and had a lot to do with that Fireman's Carnival. Anyway, Granville was bringing one of the Trimper rides out here to Sharptown to lease to the Carnival, and he met Joanne, and they fell in love, and they got married. But of course, they lived in Ocean City because Granville was a Trimper. Anyway, one thing that Joanne was known for was that she loved the carousel. In fact, when I was interviewing people about Joanne in this story, whenever you'd say Joanne Trimper in front of somebody that knew her, it was almost as if a quietness fell over them. She must have been a remarkable lady because everyone talks about her with such care and reverence. One thing they say about Joanne is that she loved that carousel. She absolutely loved it. In fact, she worked in the Trimper, in the Trimper Amusement Park as well. I can't remember which one of the Trimper staff told me, but they said Joanne used to even pour coffee, like in the coffee shops sometimes, and she'd always tell people, you've got to go see the carousel today. If you don't do anything else, you've got to see the carousel. It's impossible to be unhappy when you're riding on that carousel. It's just magical. In fact, Joanne had a favorite horse, too. The horse that she loved the most was on the outside. It's white, and it's decked in kind of turquoise sashes and deep red roses. That was her favorite horse. So she loved the carousel. And she died at a really young age. She died at 62. And when she passed away, Granville brought her back to her home in Sharptown. So they're not buried with all the other Trimpers. They're buried here, and he created this tomb for her, and he rests beside her. And you probably can't see it from here, but there's a very beautiful little emblem in the center between their names right there. Want to see it? Let's see it. What you see right here is just in between their names is an etching, a perfect etching of the carousel. So it's got Joann's horse, which they named later Forever Joann, right in the center. And in fact, the other animals right around it, the ostrich and the pig and the other horse, they're exactly to scale, just like they are on the real carousel. So she is remembered here in death for her love of the carousel. Isn't that a beautiful love story? The Trimper graves and the story that I just told you are part of our Ocean City ghost tour and even part of our Berlin ghost tour, because in Berlin is where the other Trimpers are buried. So we remember Granville and Joanne in this great story and the carousel. But there's also a little bit of a haunted tale associated with this carousel. When I was doing my interviews for my book, and I interviewed a longtime staff member of the Trimper Amusements, she said, we have an artist that works on the antique rides, and we have a mechanic that works on the antique rides. And the mechanic came up one day and he said to me, you know, I'm smelling something strange around the carousel. I don't know what it is. She said, I looked through all of the, she was a bookkeeper, and she looked through all of the records. We weren't using any more new chemicals or any kind of new products. We really worry about the carousel because it's very valuable. But I couldn't find any reason that there should be a strange smell. Once we closed, she said, when the building was closed, the antique artist was working on the ride. She came up and she said to me, I am smelling something strange around the carousel. And I said, well, what does it smell like? And she said, I can't really describe it. So the woman I was speaking to went downstairs and she said, you know, I didn't smell anything. So I went back. She said, but a few weeks later, when I was by myself and the building was closed, I walked past the carousel. It isn't on or anything. It's just still. I smelled something, and I knew I'd smelled it before, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it, what it was. So that Christmas, she said, I was in Boscov's department store with my granddaughter, and we were testing perfume bottles, and all of a sudden it hit me, that smell. The same smell that I caught when I walked past the carousel. It was a perfume. So I grabbed the perfume bottle, I looked at the bottom of it, and the name of the perfume was Crystal. And that was the name of Joann Trimper's perfume. She said, I don't know, I can't explain it, but we've all smelled it at one time or another. Well, even I smelled it one time when I was down there. I kind of called out to Joann, and my granddaughter and I had this just wafting smell briefly come by us. Was it Joann? We don't know. But it sure is a great way to remember a great lady. So I'm Mindie. This is Fridays in the Graveyard, and I will see you next week.